Okay, another question on the financial models practice. Okay, here's a question. The consumer price index indicates the relative change in price over time for a fixed basket of goods and services. In general, if the rate of inflation averages R% over n years, then the CPI, consumer price index, after n years is consumer price index equals, the new consumer price index equals the initial consumer price index times 1 plus R over 100 parentheses to the n power, and R represents the inflation rate and n represents the years. Where the CPI with the little zero, that means the initial value, is the CPI index at the beginning of the n year period. A, the first question, part 1. The CPI was 151.8 for 1995 and 179.3 for 2003. Assuming that inflation remained constant for this time period, determine the average annual inflation rate. Okay, so now I'm solving here for the inflation rate. So for one thing, I know that I'm calculating it from the period from 1995 to 2003. So that's over an 8-year period. So here where n goes for time, I put 8. And I also know that the new consumer price index is 179.3 and that the initial consumer price index is 151.8. So that goes into the new and the initial consumer price index value. So then I'm trying to solve for R, the inflation rate. So I'm going to solve this equation for R. So 179.3 equals 151.8 times 1 plus R over 100 to the 8th power. So then I'm going to try to get R by itself. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is get rid of the 151.8 on this side. In order to do that, I have to divide both sides by 151.8. So then I divided both sides by 151.8, and on the right side cancel, and here's the left side. 179.3 divided by 151.8 equals parentheses 1 plus R over 100 parentheses to the 8th power. Now I'm going to try to get R by itself. The next thing I have to do is take the root, here the nth root of both sides. So I'm going to take parentheses 179.3 divided by 151.8 parentheses raised to the 1/8 power equals 1 plus R over 100. Now, the next thing I'm going to have to do to try to get R by itself is to subtract 1 from both sides. So now I have parentheses 179.3 over 151.8 parentheses raised to the 1/8 power minus 1 equals R over 100. And I'm going to have to multiply both sides by 100 to get R by itself, which is the inflation rate. So I multiply the left side and the right side by 100. I know that if I multiply the right side by 100, it just cancels out and leaves R. So I'm going to multiply the left side by 100 to get the value of R, the inflation rate. So I have 100 parentheses 179.3 over 151.8 parentheses raised to the 1/8 power minus 1. So I put that into the calculator. And I get 170. I put 179.3 divided by 151.8 raised to the 1/8 power. I multiply that times 100, and then I subtract 100 because I'm like distributing. And then that gave me, when I put 179.3 divided by 151.8, I got 1.02. So I multiplied that by 100, gave me 102, and then I subtracted 100 from that, and that gave me for a finance of 2.10. So it gave me 2.10% for the average annual inflation rate, which is what I was trying to solve. So now the next question I'm going to try to solve is going to be using the inflation rate from part A. In what year will the CPI reach 281? So in the next question, I'm going to have to solve for the year. And I'm going to have a new value for the consumer price index, 281. And then I'm going to have an initial value. And then now I have the inflation rate, the R value. And now I'm going to have to solve for the N value, the year. So I'm going to have to solve for N in this next part of the problem.